Hey everyone, it's GreenEyedGuide. I'm going to try something new today, and instead of posting my podcast on YouTube as the waveform audio file, I'm going to record the podcast version while I record the YouTube version. Let me know in the comments if you like this better than just hearing my voice, or if you're okay with just hearing the voice. Let me know which version you like better. All right, let's give it a shot. Hey everyone, it's GreenEyedGuide. Have you ever mentally time traveled before your work shift and thought, wow, the next 10 hours are really gonna suck? Yeah, so in this podcast, I'm gonna share my story of how my burnout turned me from the hero to the jerk. And I'm gonna give you 5 tips to help you beat your own burnout. Ready? Let's go. So let me set the stage for this story. I worked nights in a bar as a barback. So not the bartender, but the person that runs the errands for the bartender. We refill kegs, glassware, ice, dishes, everything. It's hard work being a barback, and that's what I was. I was also, at the time, living with my mom and helping her take care of my younger siblings who were 12 years younger than me. So on this particular day, I was with my siblings at the Pasadena Sidewalk Chalk Festival. We were having a blast looking at all of the sidewalk drawings on all of the chalk drawings on the sidewalk and admiring all the talented artists when I got a phone call from another barback. Could I cover for him? No. Goodbye. Now, 3 things are important for the rest of this story. Number 1, he and I were the only 2 barbacks at the time during a period of high turnover at this bar. Number 2, I was trying to leave that job, and I was sick of training the new guy only for him to leave 2 months later. And number 3, as the oldest of 4, I have a bit of a superhero complex. I want to be the hero. I want to be the dependable one, the responsible one. So guess what happened when he called back again? I said no. But then he called again and again and again, building his sob story as he went. And eventually he wore me down. Eventually he triggered my empathy, my hero complex. And so I told my brother and sister we had to go. You can probably imagine how bitter I was having to go into work onto my day off, especially when going into work meant doing physically grueling work while plastering a smile on my face for the restaurant guests and not getting home until 3 a.m. But I signed up for this. I said yes because I didn't want him to get fired and have to train another new barback. So here's how that burnout turned me into a jerk. When I got to work, the doom of my situation had finally dawned on me. This is happening. The next 10 hours are gonna suck. I walked into work flustered and bitter and angry. At the time, employees had to sign their initials on a sign-in sheet, when you get to work. So with a black Sharpie, I wrote a-hole next to the employee's name that I was covering for, and with the same Sharpie signed in my initials. When my boss called me into the office later, this is one of the first things he pointed out. Maybe I should have used a different pen. My boss was less amused by my story about how I was trying to help the other guy, the one who asked me to cover, because none of that mattered. I wasn't the hero. I was the jerk. If you find yourself in a similar situation, here are 5 things you can do. Number 1, use a different pen. Just kidding. Probably you should say no. If you're feeling any kind of bitterness or anger or frustration at covering for a coworker, try saying no. This may not work for every occupation, but don't be like me. Don't have yes your default response. You should take a moment and think about it. And if you're really going to feel upset about taking that shift, try saying no. The rest of these tips come from my favorite book, which is Work and Sleep. It comes from chapter number 5, which is called Job Stress and Sleep. So tip number 2, social support helps reduce job stress. In my case, I could have tried calling my bosses and explained the situation before coming in. Their support could have helped me in 2 ways. Either they could have encouraged me to come in, which would have dissipated some of that bitterness, or they could have encouraged me to say no and taken it upon themselves to say to the other guy that he had to come in. Their social support could have reduced my stress. It could have helped the situation. Tip number 3, coping mechanisms. This is where deep breathing and prayer, those other stress management techniques come into play. We don't want to forget about those. In my case, I should have taken time before my shift to just sit in my car, breathe deeply, and try and collect myself. I could have also set up a reward system to try and tap into that dopamine effect that you get when you're about to achieve an award. In my case, behave during the shift and you get a new superhero t-shirt, something like that. That kind of reward system helps your brain beat burnout because you get that energy boost from that dopamine that you're about to accomplish something, you're about to get your reward. Tip number 4, segregate work and home. This is especially difficult during COVID, but it's still super important. You want to segregate your workspace and the space where you rest. This means not doing any work on your bed. This means keeping your work out of your bedroom as much as possible. I like to think about it as having either your thinking cap or your work boots. So, for example, I was trying to leave that job. So there is a time and a place to put on my thinking cap and think about how am I going to get out of this job? And there's a time to put on my work boots and just tackle the work in front of me. So, thinking cap or work boots. You have to pick one. Segregate work and rest as much as possible. And tip number 5, sleep hygiene. This is really important, and in fact, it deserves its own episode. There is a YouTube podcast that I did with sleep and fatigue specialist Clinton Marquardt on my YouTube channel. The name of the episode is called Preparing for the Night Shift. And in that episode, Clinton and I talk for 30 minutes about all the different ways you can improve your sleep and reduce your burnout, specifically for night shift. So there's a lot more sleep hygiene tips in that episode, but I'll give you the basic ones you've probably heard of before, but these are so important. Wherever you rest, you need to make sure it's dark and quiet and comfortable. Try not to use your cell phone before bed because that will interfere with your quality of sleep. All of those things are important. So those are your 5 tips. I hope that helps you beat your burnout, and I hope that helps you stay the hero and not let your burnout turn you from the hero to the jerk. All right, I'm GreenEyedGuide. Thanks for listening.